I'm going to tell a story that Tori does not know I'm going to tell about them.
Oh, boy.
They have no idea this is coming.
Do I need to hit the trauma button or?
No.
Raising a well-behaved child in this world requires strict discipline and punishment. Today, we will look...
No, we will not.
Hello and welcome to Childproof. I'm Tori Phantom.
And I'm Gwenna Lathland.
And today we are going to do our first ever Childproof. That means we are going to be talking about things that aren't completely parenting-centered or child-centered and not being the reason that our kids need therapy.
Yes, that is what we said we were going to talk about. Things not centered on parenting directly. Tori, what did we make notes on?
Parenting.
Right. Yeah. We're actually bad at this, apparently.
Yeah.
So this is an episode about being a person and a parent, but not quite a child-proofed episode.
So this is an episode about child-proofing yourself then, perhaps?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Fair. Let's start the timer.
I think it's...
Okay, so...
You kick it off. You kick it off. I already write down our error time.
Just immediate. You know what? Don't even cut that part. Just leave that part in the episode, just so they understand we're not good at this. Okay. We overtalk every time. We just edit out every time we overtalk. So one of the very first struggles I had when I was a very first time parent, 18 years ago. Wow. Was I felt like it was inappropriate to not share everything because I knew entering parenthood, my mom had stuff that I wasn't allowed to mess with. And as far as the things that were safety concerned, I perfectly understood that. Obviously, I understand why she didn't want me messing with the big pack of needles. I understand. But then there were other things that I just didn't understand. She had coloring books that she kept on a super high shelf that I wasn't allowed to touch. And I did not understand that.
Yeah.
So when Abby was first born, I was like, everything, if it's in the house and it's safe for her to mess with, obviously, again, safety concerns paramount.
That's different.
But if it's in the house, she should be able to access it. And within 2 years, I was like, nope, this shit's mine. Don't touch it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, though, is you didn't understand why.
No, I did not understand why my mom had stuff hidden.
I think that's kind of the difference is when we tell our kids, this is my thing, we're explaining that boundary.
Yeah.
I try sometimes in a joking way to tell my kids, because I'm the mom and I said so. And they're like, that's not a valid answer.
That's not.
Good job, me. I'm glad I taught you that.
I wanted kids to confront authority. They have to practice it on me first. Okay.
Dang it. You're doing the thing I taught you to do and you're doing it well.
Damn it. Not me. No, go fight your principal, not me. No, please don't fight principals.
I fought a principal once. That's a long story.
As a kid or as a parent?
As a parent.
Okay, good.
I think one of the funniest boundaries I have with my kids is my snacks, because I have this rule with my secret snacks is that they will only be secret until I want them. I am the least snacky person in my house. Yeah. And so the problem that I kept running into when I was like, everything is free game, right? Because
Trauma dump!
I had issues being able to access food as a child. And
said so casually. That's why we have the trauma dump button.
That's why we have the button. Yeah. Just
folks
makes it better. And so when I had kids, I never wanted them to feel like they weren't allowed to touch food, right? Because that is a direct trauma dump thing, And so I was like, everything's open to everybody. And so then as time went on, I was like, I need to change some structures here because yes, everything is open to everybody, but some things I want to at least get a bite of.
Yes.
So, generally speaking, the rule
just
is
a good hearty whiff, and that'll do.
Right. And so with most things, I'd say 99% of stuff, it goes in the kitchen. It is free access. However, the rule is if you eat the last one, you have to throw out the packaging and tell me so I can buy more. Because there is nothing worse than going for a snack and finding the empty box.
Yeah.
But there are special snacks I will get sometimes because I'll look at it, I'll see it, or I like to get like the snack boxes. And so when I get those things, I have a spot in my room and it's like, quote unquote, my secret spot. But my kids know it exists and they know there is a boundary because and they respect it, probably because, without question, because they know when I am ready to eat that snack, I will have my bit of it and then it goes into the regular snack cabinet. Yeah. It is my way of saying nothing. This box is staying sacred until I get one, because it's been too many times where I went to have that special snack I got for myself and there were none left and I found the empty box.
My family is aware of the protected brownies. I have always, sometimes like all of the candy in the house lives in a mouse-proof container here in my office. Like I can't turn the camera, but it's literally right there. If my arm were like 3 inches longer, I could show you the box of candy. And that's all the candy that's in the house. And that is kept in here because my children have the impulse control of children.
Wow.
And
that's
my
shocking.
office door locks.
Yeah.
So, and then sometimes on weekends, my husband and I now get to sleep in. So we'll get the fruit cups out that they can open by themselves, and we'll get the breakfast pastries that they can open by themselves, and we stick those on the table, and then we sleep till like 8. And when they get up, if they get up before us, they've got breakfast sitting on the table. They're used to it, but then also them little grabby fingers go wandering. So the candy stays locked up, but also stays locked up are the 2 or 3 things that are completely safe for me to eat from the dessert world, because I have dietary restrictions. There is one brand of brownies that I can eat because they are dairy free, but not vegan. And there's nothing wrong with vegan brownies, but they hit different.
Yes.
These feel and taste like Southern brownies, but there's no dairy in them.
Yeah.
Which means I can eat them. And my family knows that they're not allowed to touch it. But my 6-year-olds don't fully understand what that means. They know that mom can't have cow stuff, but they don't fully understand. Yeah, but that means that mom can't have a lot of different foods. That one doesn't look like it has cow stuff. When you don't
have a dietary restriction or an allergy, you really can't comprehend how difficult that is to navigate. Yeah. Even with an adult brain, I can't imagine having to look through every single food for dairy. Like that's just like not a thing I have to think about.
So I was so excited because just like we were talking about, hey, I taught you that. My littles were bugging me. Mom, can I have a brownie? No, all I have is mom's brownies. Why does mom get special brownies? And I went to explain for the billionth time why mom has special brownies, not that kind of special brownies, but why mom has certain brownies. And my teenager jumps in and she said, that's because those are safe for mom's tummies. Mom's tummy, we can have any sort of brownie that we want, but she can only have those. And she makes a ton of meals that she can't eat because we like them. The least we could do is leave her brownies alone. I was like,
that's so sweet. Look at you parenting the heck out of those kids. I love it.
But there's a bunch of things that I hoard. I hoard certain craft supplies. Do you hoard? You're a crafty house. Do you have a mom-only supply?
My house is basically an elementary school art classroom, but there's levels. It's also kind of like a craft store because you can get like the lower quality, or you can find the higher quality stuff. And so I have.
You just got to know where to look in the aisles.
And so, yeah, exactly. And so all the stuff that the kids can have, like I have a giant bucket of, the washable markers, and a huge bucket of colored pencils and crayons and regular pencils and pens. And then there is my stuff, which if they want to use it, you have to provide a reason and it needs to be returned promptly. You will not just be leaving that somewhere. And that's like my Copic markers. Like you very rarely are ever going to need my Copics. Permanent markers are kept out of reach for obvious reasons. And so there's like levels of stuff. So if they want to use it why is what you have not gonna work for this? And then the other thing is I have my drawing pens that I use for the history cards, and I have fancy pens. I get zebra pens. I recently, because this is a mom thing, no one can touch this pen. I was doing research.
Are these your sewing scissors?
Yeah, basically that's like that kind of thing. Yeah. And so I was doing research on pens, ballpoint pens for drawing, because I don't like gel pens, as one does. And I was looking into these brands. I found this like steel pen brand. I don't even remember the brand type, but I was like looking up all these pens and their price points. And this was a $20 pen. And I was like, this is the most ridiculous purchase I am ever going to make in my life. But I need to know if this $20 pen is actually that better than the $2 pen. It is. It is.
Okay.
And, yeah. And so that is an off limits pen. But I have a little, I think it's like a makeup bag that I got from like a Ulta purchase once. And it is filled with my index cards, my pencils, my smudgers, and my pens. And that little bag goes everywhere, and no one is to open it without permission, because that has half finished artwork and all that. So yes, I do have my art supplies that are not completely off limits, but you need permission. I need to know where that stuff is.
I have completely off limits, but that is because I have an exact duplicate that's not been kitified. They have a 64 pack of crayons each. I have a 64 pack of crayons. It's identical. It's just that mine is cared for the way an adult would care for.
I can see why you would want to do that.
The way a 6-year-old is cared for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So yes, I have colored pencils, but they're just Crayola colored pencils. Now we do have a set of fancy colored pencils, but those belong to my husband, but they live in here with the coloring stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I have the Prismacolor colored pencils, which are the nice ones, and I literally just mix them in with the Crayola. I'm not protective of those.
we are protective in those, in that if for whatever reason he needs to color something, he probably has done some sort of illustration for something, probably for me. And we need listen, I'm going to be nerdy about it here for just a sec. The higher the quality of the ingredients you put into the art, the easier it is to scan and keep all of those distinctions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we all know this, there is the different level of quality in anything. Right. Unfortunately, sometimes it does work out that you get what you pay for.
Right. So if he's had to color something, he probably needed to scan it for me, because it's probably something that I'm working on, and we need the fancy color pencils. That is the only reason those are secured.
Yeah. I even have different levels of paint, right? Like I have the acrylic craft paint, and then I have my higher quality paint that I'm going to use. I have different levels of paint brushes, and it's not that I'm like, you guys can't use these, because it's the same you said with the crayons, right? Yeah. The way that kids are going to take care of them, and also like what we're going to be doing with them. I need my model paint brushes that are super teeny tiny to not get frayed. Right. I have to paint Care Bears on shoes. And
here's the other difference though. I wonder if what we're talking about is the difference between art supplies and hobby supplies. Because my husband does model building. None of us are allowed to touch his model paint brushes. Even me, like I, a grown adult, have to ask permission to touch these brushes, because they are put together in a certain way. They're stored in a certain way. Yeah. He's got one of those like 3-hair brushes.
I learned the hard way that I can't leave the model paint brushes in the water cup. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. So, but like he's got hobby stuff, and that is different than art supply stuff.
That is
the hobby stuff is.
And I think for me, all of my art stuff is my hobby stuff.
There's hobby stuff.
That's a Venn diagram.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's not a perfect circle, because there's some stuff that I was just like, I want to try this thing. Right. And then it didn't turn into a passion. But while we were thinking about this episode, about an hour before we started recording it,
let's not confuse people with how much preparing we do.
We actually, fun behind the scenes, we have learned that the more we prepare an episode, the worse it is.
The worse it goes.
Because you can't have the same conversation twice. It doesn't work well. So, but in preparing this episode and thinking about, these things that are who we are outside of parenting, right?
Yeah.
What I realized when it comes to my art and hobbies is that I would say a good at least 80% of the time, the artwork that I am doing, the product is for my kids. However, I will hold true in my soul that I am still doing it for me because the process is for me and the product is for them, because I make art all the time. I enjoy the process of creating art. When I am done working on a project, that means I have to stop working on it. And I don't like to do that. You know, it took me a year and a half to finish that mural. Yes. I like the process. When I'm done with it, there's generally not much art I want to make for myself, but I want to do art.
I'm going to tell a story that Tori does not know I'm going to tell about them.
Oh boy.
They have no idea this is coming.
Do I need to hit the trauma button or?
No. So about halfway through the process of them painting a mural in their living room, they had done the flowers and they were beginning work on the sun. And if you watched the process of that mural going up, you know that those sun rays, straight lines of color, that wall is 8 pounds heavier than it was before it got painted because of Tori's battle with the sun rays.
It reminds me of that episode of Malcolm in the Middle when Hal's painting his mural, and when he finally finishes, the whole thing just collapses because of all the layers. Yeah.
I fully expect that to happen. But they FaceTimed me and said, I don't know what it is, but I might be done with the sun rays. Except I was like, Tori, you have to stop messing with the sun rays. And they were like, no. I think they should be gradients, because this was at the point you were still doing the solid sun rays. You hadn't begun doing the gradients and you couldn't figure out why you hated it. And I was like, you have to stop messing with the sun rays. And they told me, and I quote, I promise this is the last time.
That was a lie. Yeah, no. And that's the thing I think was kind of funny for me personally, painting this mural and sharing the entire process with the world, right? Is that there were people who totally understood why I wouldn't stop with the sun rays. And then there were people who were like, Tori, I swear, like, stop it. It's fine. And
I was in that second camp.
Yeah. And it's funny too, though, because my kid is a lot like me, my artist kid, in that I don't want to not have this up to my own standard. Now that's a double-edged sword, because sometimes our standards are too high. But with my sun rays, I would look at them and because a lot of it too is a color adjustment, because I ended up with more colors and shades. And then I was like, well, I found these and now I want to change the original ones. And then I'm like, well, now my spacing's wrong. I should have done this all before. Again, I learned things the hard way. It's a tradition. And
can't just hit rock bottom. You got to get down there and lick it.
Yeah, no, I'm digging a hole below rock bottom. And
what's below rocks? I don't know.
We'll find out. Magma. And so I spent all of that time, but it was never like, well, sure, sometimes I did get frustrated. Most of it was like every time I would readjust the sun ray, it would look closer to what I wanted it to be. And I love the process. And so as I was continuing, I will say the funniest thing about the sun rays is that if you were to get up on a ladder and look at those sun rays and just touch my wall, you can feel the different layers of sun rays. You can,
some got more attention than others.
6 layers. Some of them I did right the first time, very few, but you can feel the difference. Between some of the sun rays, there is you could measure in millimeters the difference in layers.
There'd be shadow work on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I have the opposite thing in that I want when I'm working on a hobby, especially when it's a hobby that similar to yours, a lot of my stuff, the process is for me. The end result is whatever. I don't care what happens.
We're just going to throw it into the pile of finished crap.
Pretty much. And there are some things that I have to have a purpose for. Things like anything that's in 3-dimension. I cannot paint wine glasses for the sake of painting wine glasses. Because what am I going to do with those wine glasses when I run out of the 4 we keep in the house? I can't keep gifting people painted wine glasses. What am I going to crochet? I have to have something to crochet. I don't want a shelf full of crocheted bees. And that's no shade to anyone who does like collecting their little stuffies or handkerchiefs or granny squares. Like that. For me, I need something to do with it.
Yeah.
So I end up having to have a thing to do with this. I can't have a shelf of stuffed animals. That's not good enough motivation for me to do the thing, even though the motivation is doing something for myself. Listen, it's complicated inside.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I think sometimes it's better for me when I have a time limit and there is a purpose, right? Because the mural was so easy to back burner because it didn't need to be finished. It was something I was only working on when I had time and wanted to. But the history cards, I do one every single school day. And I work on those throughout the entire day because it's me. So I'm not going to just do something simple. They just keep getting more detailed. I have more and more supplies for them. And I have to have it done, right? There's this expectation. And is my kid going to be scarred forever and so mad at me if it's not there? No, she would be understanding. But I know that she struggles at school. She has a hard time with routine changes. I never know how her day is going to go. She has a hard time, and she knows for a fact that she is going to have a bright spot in her day when she gets to read her facts and look at her picture. Very
predictable thing to look forward and understand is going.
Yeah. So she gets that and I like to make them and I love learning. And so I know I will never not get that done. And then, but I am on a time crunch now because my kiddo wanted shoes. We went shoe shopping. And of course, anything in her size, there was like 2 pairs left because there was a million shoes, but the size you need is never the one available.
Correct.
Right. And so we found the one pair. It was like a pair of bluey shoes, right? We were at Walmart. And so we found the one pair, but she likes bluey, but she's not in the super bluey phase right now.
Yeah.
And then I saw like slip-on white canvas shoes and I was like, ooh. And she's like, why are you excited about this? I said, because those can be anything you want them to be.
Yeah.
And she didn't know. And I was like, there's galaxy shoes. Like I made galaxy shoes before. She's like, oh, I could do galaxy shoes. And I was like, no, what do you want? Like I've made galaxy shoes, but we could make them whatever you want. We could do this. We could do Care Bear shoes. We could make rat shoes. And she's like, we could do Care Bear shoes and we could make them. And I was like, yeah, like you could even make them mismatched. And she's like, well, you could do one Care Bear shoe and then I could do the other. And that was painful for me. I was like,
I saw your video on that.
Yeah.
And you said I could do one shoe and my kid could do the other. And I made this face.
Yeah. I had to hide that face because she's a blossoming artist. And I'm like, okay, like I can deal with this. And it's one of those things that's silly because like, really, I think it's cool to do something with my kid, but at the same time, there's like that part in my brain that's like really perfectionist.
But it's not going to look good because you're not good yet.
I'm going to do it. I could make it a set, right? But then, as you know, we lost another one of our ratties. We lost Syrup. And this was shortly after I'd started doing the Care Bear shoe, which was such a fun process because she'd get home from school and she'd look at because I was doing this on my kitchen table and she'd go, Mommy, it's looking so good, and then we had lost Syrup and she goes, Mom, I think I don't want to do the other shoe now. Do you think you could put maple and syrup on that one?
Yeah.
And so I finished the Care Bear shoe and I have to do the rat shoe and I have to finish this before she outgrows the damn
Sobbing
shoes.
through tears.
But I have
my kids. I love my hobbies. I love my kids.
I have to finish it before she outgrows them. That growth spurt could come tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so there's a time limit that I don't know what it is. And that's not how my brain works.
I sat down to make a scarf because I was in a crochet phase. I'm still in a crochet phase. I have car crochet now, weirdly.
I love
if
that
I'm in the car, I'm probably wiggling a stick and string. But no, I sat down.
My favorite way I've heard crochet described in my life. Wiggling a stick with a string. Sorry.
That's all it is. It's a very specific wiggle, but that's all you're doing. But no, I sat down to make a scarf and I had gotten 2 rows in and I was making myself a black, white, and gray scarf because my winter coat is gray. And it's that's fine. And my son walks in and he goes, hey, Mom. Yeah, bud. What you doing? Making a scarf. For me? For me. Are you sure it's not for me? I'm sure it's not for you. Are you positive it's not for me? Do you want it to be for you? Yeah, I want a scarf. All right. guess I'm making you a scarf now. And then naturally, because I've got 2 children of the same age, I'm about a quarter of the way through. It looks more like a shitty blanket. There's no real scarf recognition happening just because of the size that it was. My daughter walks in. She goes, "Where's mine? Where's your what? My scarf. How do you know this is a scarf? Bubba, mouthy little."
So the question is, did you finish the scarves before the season that they would need scarves is over?
Yes, I did. I finished 2 scarves. I finished a black, white, and gray striped one, and I finished a rainbow one that I used self-striping rainbow yarn.
Did you finish one for you?
No.
Of course. That tracks.
Yeah. No, I still do not have a scarf of my own. My children do, though.
It's funny you say that about the thing. This was supposed to be for me, but now it's for the kids because my closet has way more shirts in it than I wear because my middleist wears my t-shirts as nightgowns. And so now my littlest is doing that. And so I have shirts that are just mine. I have to label which shirts are just mine. And then
cannot wear this one to bed because I would like it for me.
And then and I think my eldest has started taking my shirts for bedtime too. Like my shirts are their shirts, except for some of them. And anything that is a light color, that's mine. No, you cannot have that one. You will somehow get chocolate on it, even if I don't feed you chocolate. So I literally keep a portion of my closet as free for all to take mom's shirts, but I can't put them in their location because then it's not.
I was going to say, it should be noted here. We need to understand there are still boundaries happening in the Phantom household. They have a family closet system in their home. For those of you unfamiliar with that,
Yes.
so everybody shares the same closet space.
Well, I have the dresser space for their sharing, right? But there is a portion of my closet that is you are allowed to take from this part. I have a big closet, and so there is the half of the shirt rack that is these are mine, and then there is maybe a quarter of it really of these are what you can grab from. I would have donated those shirts or gotten rid of them, in any other regard. But my kids like to wear my clothes from my closet because it feels special. So that is their section of mom shirts to choose from. Being a parent is so bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
The things we end up doing.
I don't have shoes anymore. My child really doesn't prefer my aesthetic. My oldest child doesn't. My littles are just too small. But my oldest child doesn't really prefer my aesthetic. So my shirts are always safe. She teases me because of my shirts because I have odd shirts.
Yeah.
But my shoes, I bought myself a brand new pair of just roll around town tennis shoes. They were black and they had flowers printed on them. And I got them and my child was like, shoes. Yes, mine. She goes, okay, I don't need your shoes. I've got plenty of shoes. Okay. I cannot currently find those shoes.
I wonder where they are.
My closet's clean.
I wonder.
I cannot currently find those shoes. I don't know where those shoes are. I have a pretty good idea of where those shoes are, and it's not where I put them.
Yeah. No, one day my eldest kid came home from school. I took a look at them and I said, "Are those my pants?"
Yeah.
Yeah. They're really comfy. I know. I'm the one who wore them in.
But this is why this episode is not child-proofed at all, because who we are as people and who we are as parents, it's like a Venn diagram, and it's like the skinniest sliver on either side for some people. But then I look and think, but then we look at professional Gwenna, and professional Gwenna is a different breed of human being.
It's my longest best friend, who has been around since my eldest was a baby, has always said there is Mom Tori and then Tori PM, because I'm a different person once my kids go to bed. Once the kids are in bed, it's like I can take off, not a mask so much, because I feel like mask, like there is like this negative part of it, but it's like I could take off that hat and just kind of relax into myself. We did an episode about that.
It's a different mom brain.
Yes.
It's a different brain that you can access. Because I had gone through an entire negotiation for a brand deal that I was doing for social media. And the whole time it was just back and forth on email. And it was through one of my professional emails, like hello at something. So they weren't completely sure who they were talking to. We finally get onto a video call and it's me. And they're like, oh, I thought you were like an assistant. I was like, why did you think I was an assistant that you weren't just talking to me? And I wasn't offended. I was just curious. Yeah. And they're like, well, you didn't sound like a mom. How does one sound like a mom in an email, my guy?
Do you want me to offer you snacks? Like,
I was like, yeah, they just thought that I had a staff, which, I think I'm supposed to enough to have a staff. It's just me, fucker.
I can't afford staff.
I can't afford eggs. Are you kidding me?
I dropped an egg yesterday and almost cried.
I got really excited because for like one hot second, eggs were $7.99. They'd been like $8.02.83. I was like, are they dropping the next day?
I got eggs for $6.50 at Costco one day a couple of weeks ago. They had a deal going on. I was like, I hit the lottery. Imagine being excited over eggs being $6.50. Like, yeah.
You know what? That's what differentiates us from our kids because our kids don't give a shit.
I think
I just cursed again.
Color me surprised. I think
here's what we're gonna have to do about my cursing because we can't keep labeling the episodes explicit. Pause episode. We're gonna let you peek behind the curtain here just a sec. Every time I curse, we're just going to have to start introducing increasingly unhinged ways to censor the fact that I cannot self-censor.
I love this idea. I'm going to have to add a new level of production.
So it starts with just the beep, but the more often I lose it and cannot keep my language clean, we're going to end up with caca.
Yeah, I think a caca is actually pretty tame. You've just given me a gift, my friend.
Increasingly unhinged ways to censor Gwenna.
Yes, that's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy this.
So back to the episode. You and I have both traveled together several times.
Yeah.
Are you in the crowd that's like, nope, I feel no guilt about traveling because traveling for work is a part of being a mom because this is how I provide for my family. My time and my emotional capacity is not the only way I contribute to the upkeep and maintenance of my family. Or are you, I'm a terrible human being. I really don't deserve to be doing any of this. And oh my gosh, who rips themselves away from their children just to work?
I would sit in the airport and feel like I wouldn't mind if my flight got canceled.
Yeah,
I could see a benefit there. And I loved being able to work with you in person those couple of times and to be able to hang out without having to hand out snacks. But both of us, I need you all to know that we met a couple times in New York City for this podcast before we owned it. And we were both FaceTiming our kids every day. Just to say hi, how's it going? What's going on? And I think that to be
our
a parent,
kids, by the way, not our partners.
Yeah.
Our partners were fine.
Our partners were the conduit for us to get to our kids because not all of our children.
Hand the phone over. Yeah, love you. Hand the phone over.
Yeah. I need to talk to the child, please. And I think that it is amazing for parents who can do that without guilt. I don't think they should feel guilt. I don't think we should feel guilt.
You're correct.
I think it's okay to feel guilt. And I think that we should be working towards feeling like, hey, it is okay for us to exist without our kids. They are going to be fine. And for us to let ourselves free of that responsibility to do everything for everyone all the time. And I think because we are work from home parents, it can kind of it gets muddy. Yes, it gets kind of muddy. And I know that's a conversation I've had to have with my little ones if I am working from home when they are home, because I typically try to get all of my work done during their school day, which is not a lot of time really. And no, it's not. It's not. And when I've had to work when they're on a school break, or if I have to get things done on a weekend or it's summer break, right? And I have to say, you guys have to find things to do because I have to get these things done. And especially with the younger kiddos, they don't fully understand because, especially like daddy goes to work out of the house. So that is signaling to them, daddy is at work. And when daddy is at home, he's not working. But mommy, I can't always tell. Yeah. There's not a structured thing when mom cannot engage in the same way. And so we've had to have conversations about why that is, and that even though it might not seem like I'm working because I'm still here, I am.
Yeah.
And I think,
well, and that's for my teenager, especially when this was early, when all I was doing was just social media, before I started writing books, before I started doing long form videos, before the podcast, it was just me and my phone. And my daughter would be home on a school break, and she was enforced screen time limits. And she rightfully, although I'll explain. She called me out. She goes, "Mom, I'm only allowed so much time on my phone. Why do you get so much more time on your phone?" I was like, this is a super valid question. This is. Here's what's happening is I work from my phone. Everything I do requires me poke on my phone. That is no longer the case, but in the time of this conversation, I did all of my editing through my phone. I did all of my emailing through my phone. I did all of my talking through my phone, my filming. And then there's a certain amount of social media you have to consume to even know what to do to make a social media video. So I had to explain to her, I was like, listen, from this time to this time, I don't have screen limits because my job involves the screen.
yes.
Now, from this time to this time, you are correct. If it is after these set hours, then you have every right to call me. Hey, Mom, put the phone down and engage, because that's something that we say. Hey, put the phone down and engage.
I have had a personal rule since my kids were very small that if a child talks to me, my phone goes down, because I want them to know I am engaged. I am looking. I don't want them to ever feel like, oh, never mind, Mom's not going to pay attention. And then when this became my job and my career, I really took that even a step further. And so if it is a regular like school day, right? Because again, if the kids are home from school, it's going to look differently because I am squeezing in work where I can. Also, fun fact, if you follow my social medias, if you're seeing a lot of voiceover content, that's because my kids have been home, because I can record
then
anything.
They can be loud and chaotic.
They can be
and we'll just
loud
block that out.
chaos. I could just mute that, and then once they're in bed, I can go and talk at my phone. But when they are like regular school day, regular schedule, when they get home from school, and like everyone knows this, you're not going to get a response from a text. I might answer a call if I feel my phone vibrating in my pocket, but I wear big pants, so maybe. But from the hours of about 3:30 p.m. until they go to bed, which bedtime routine starts around 6:30ish for my younger ones. I'm not on my phone.
You put your children start at 6:30? Yes.
Yeah, my kids, I could drop my kids off at school as early as 6:55 in the morning. We have a very early school day here. So.
We have a very early. Our doors open at 7:15.
Yep, our doors open at 6:55. We've never made it that early, but we could. And no, the routine starts at 6:30. They're usually the youngest is usually asleep by like 7. She's the only kid that. She's such a good sleeper. It's impressive. Yeah. And my middleest usually asleep by 8:30. But that routine starts at 6:30, and I'm not available. I am spending that time with them because I don't want to seem like I am constantly ignoring them for the phone. And that's a boundary I set for myself, not just for my kids, but for me. Because I need time to not stare at my phone. Oh, yeah. It's so, just, and I see my own face way too much. I have to set a boundary about it. I'm like, no one was ever meant to look at their own face this much.
I listen to my voice so much.
But I
have no idea what I actually sound like anymore.
Yeah, I do think.
So distorted in my head.
Because we had set out initially to do a child-proofed episode. I think that we should do a hyperfixation of the week, because our hyperfixations are things that are for us, because they are things that we're hyperfixated on, because they're super interesting, even if they were inspired by a kid.
So my hyperfixation this week is this. I wrote a book. I can't even see there it is. I couldn't see the camera from where I was at. I wrote a book. It's called The Soul's Guide to the Afterdeath. And this has consumed every inch of my attention.
I'm so obsessed. Like, please, everyone, go get your hands on this book. Go buy it, because I have known about this book since it was a very, very nugget of a short story that was shared to me via a note on the phone. And Gwetta sent it to me, just like literally like shared the note. It was like, what do you think of this? And I was like, this is amazing. So can you give us a synopsis? Because I'm going to butcher it and talk in circles. So we know who I am.
So have you ever encountered, and be honest, Tori, it's okay. Have you ever encountered a Karen in the wild, and that little horrible portion of your brain that thinks awful thoughts and you have to beat it back because that's not a nice thing to think? Have you ever thought to yourself, you know what? I hope she has the day she deserves. I hope she gets run over by a bus or something.
I've never wished harm, but I do hope for those minor inconveniences, just to spoil them, you know?
So in this book, you meet a complete Karen named Susan Chambers, and she gets into a battle of wills with a city bus. She loses. And she wakes up in the space between one life and the next called the after death. And she is required and guided through everything that she is and was, everything that made her her. She has to kind of confront and take apart. And that includes her Karen-ness. That includes everything that filtered into making Susan Chambers the way she was. She kind of has to reconcile that. She kind of has to accept that maybe she wasn't a good person. And that's what this book is about.
And it's amazing. And it isn't as serious as that might sound, because it is still Gwenna's writing style.
Yeah, there's absolutely there's Twilight inspired murder bugs.
I was about to say, where are my ratties at? Sound off in the comments. There are Twilight references in this story about
Twilight,
this Karen.
Taylor Swift, and Jello flashlights, and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
it's all in there.
Yeah, so
all in there.
It is so. I would say I loved reading this myself because it is such a thought-provoking story, in that you are really kind of considering even yourself of what things would I have to reconcile? Yeah. But it's not so serious that it's heavy in that I am feeling bad or this is making me think too much. It's still, because of Gwenna's humor and writing style, it is light enough for that thought-provoking part of it to be enjoyable and not I don't like where this is going. I don't like the spiral this is causing in my brain. It's very good. Yeah. And I highly recommend you all go and purchase that right now.
It's available pretty much everywhere.
And
it is
you
currently out.
Self-published this. And
I did.
The amount of hyperfixation required in order to figure that out.
My group chat is sick of it. We were talking about group chat earlier. My group chat is perfectly used to what time do I disappear in the evenings? About around 5-ish? Is that when I go dark?
Yeah. And you might show back up around 10 p.m.
10 p.m. my Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, we're in different time zones, but
yeah. Saturdays
Yeah.
and Sundays, I'm just offline, and most of that is because I'm having to do stuff I didn't know how to do this 2 weeks ago. I still don't think I do know how to do this. This book wasn't supposed to be out till June.
You did it, imposter syndrome.
It's out. It exists. But yeah, that's been my hyperfixation. I recorded the audiobook. Jack is mastering it right now, so it'll be out. But I've listened to my voice so much. I actually think that I sound like a dying moose all the time. I know that is not true. That is not imposter syndrome. That's just, I don't know what, there's something going on in
every
my head.
person, though, knows the experience of what we sound like in our heads because of how, ears work and stuff. The way we sound in our heads is not the way we sound to other people. But I think every person ever has had the experience of hearing a recording of their voice and going, I sound like that.
Yeah, is that what I sound like?
That never goes away in my experience, no matter how much you hear your own voice. It stays like that.
So, but yeah, that's been my hyperfixation. What has your hyperfixation been?
I'm so glad you asked.
Wait. Is it American history still?
Obviously.
Is it American Revolutionary War history?
Kind of. My current hyperfixation, which will actually be the first full episode of my history series. I have the entire script written. I just have not had the chance to produce that because there is a lot of work that goes into filming essentially a mini movie. But I my first full history episode, because if you haven't seen it yet, my prologue to the history series is up and live on my channel. And so the first full episode will be discussing how it is pretty much kind of George Washington's fault that the American Revolution happened because of how he caused the 7 Years' War, which is also known as the French and Indian War. Because George Washington, you see, he was a young man living in Virginia, about 21 years old, and his older brothers, which were quite older than him, they served on the board for this company called the Ohio Company, which was trying to gain land in the Ohio country. And the governor of Virginia, Robert Dinwiddie, he was like super, super into imperialism. And he was a super loyalist. He was a royal governor, which is different than an elected governor. He was appointed by the crown. So he sends this letter to Britain and was like, hey, France, they're from Canada, they're going into the Ohio country. We don't want them there. There's this whole thing, right? And it's very inflammatory. So the king sends back this letter and he's like, well, don't be an aggressor because we are in a very rare time of peace with France. Don't be the aggressor. But if they are aggressive towards you, then you can fight back, right? And so Dinwiddie used this as a reason to raise his own militia. And who did he choose to head it? That's right. George Washington, who is 21, had no experience, kind of made some bad decisions. But so he heads out into the Ohio country with a letter from Dinwiddie. And it says, hey, this is British land. We all know this. Get off our land, okay? And the French were like really nice to Washington. They're like, okay, we're not going to like fight you or anything, but nuh-uh. And so he takes a 3-month voyage back to Dinwiddie and he tells him, and he's like, you know what we should do about this? That's right. Raise more soldiers. We should get some British regulars in on this. And so he sends out Washington ahead of the rest of them. He's got like 150 men with him. And he's like, go up to the forks of the Ohio River because we are already building a base there. You're going to go help with that. You're going to go do some scout work. And, you know, he gets there and the French have already taken it over. They're building their own fort. And so he goes to fortify. He's like, I'm going to make my own base nearby while we wait for our reinforcements.
And then you're going to actually have to watch the episode because if I don't stop, Tori, you'll get the whole episode.
No,
right
you're
here.
not going to get I'm going to end it at a cliffhanger so you can watch the episode. Are you ready?
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Okay. You didn't give me a limit before I started, so that's your fault.
I'm aware.
So he is also working with Tanagrisson, the half king. And he is a Native American man. A half king is like a diplomat for the Native nations, specifically the Iroquois. There's a whole thing. I'm not going to get into that part. Anyway, Tanagrisson did not want either the French or the English on that land, obviously. Yeah. And he realized that the only way to get the French out was to make them angry enough to retaliate against the British, at which point they would have to fight them off. And he thinks in his calculations, this is the best way, right? So the French knew Washington had set up this base. They sent out a diplomatic crew of only about 40 people. And then Tanagrisson tells Washington, these scouts are coming out. We should see what's going on. So he talks Washington into, Washington made the decision after getting this intel, going and surprising them. And so they swarmed a diplomatic group, that's not a good thing to do. And they're at the end, which there's like 6 accounts of the story. So there's no way to tell what really happened. And I will be covering all of them in this episode. But basically, this ends with the diplomat being killed, the Jumonville. He gets murdered, and then Washington, to get his troops out of Fort Necessity, where the French retaliated, signs an agreement. But it was either translated improperly or not mentioned to him that he was admitting to murder.
Oh.
And then a war started.
George Washington might be a murderer?
Yeah, there's a lot there. And that was only one of 3 encounters. So that's going to be that next episode. I've been really into this. It's Jumonville's Glen, Fort Necessity, and then Braddock's defeat. And that all, without this, it was the predecessor to the American Revolution, and I can connect those dots for you too. It's so interesting. If you couldn't tell, I could talk about this all day.
Yes.
And I do. I do.
No, but it's actually, but the way that you explain it is, first of all, it is entertaining, but that I don't think is the hard part. There are a ton of educators. What I really like about this series, and I'm privy to more parts of this series than most of the general public is, but what I really like about this series is how you're able to say it in regular people words, not just an entertaining way, but like you got to Half King and you're like, wait, I didn't even know what a Half King was. I'm going to explain that real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, but this is a whole interesting story. Like you've managed to take webbing and make every single pathway fascinating to the point that I'm like, no, go back and tell me about the Half Kings. Like, what was happening there?
That is the goal, is I want to make it accessible and interesting, because I think a lot of times when you're talking about educational content, you get a little lost because no one stops to go, what didn't I know before I understood all of these
there were
terms?
so many people. I'm going to admit I was a history major. Now, I was a world history major. I had specialties in different places, but I didn't know what the French Indian War was completely.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. And that it was actually a world war, because we learn about it as the French and Indian War in a sentence in a history book in school.
Yeah.
And but part of the reason too that I am making this series so accessible is because I am making it so that my kid can watch it. So again, here we go back around. It is for myself. It is for myself, for my kids.
If everybody else can watch it, fantastic.
Yeah.
We love that.
There's our timer.
Thanks for listening to Childproof. We want to hear from you. Email us at, what's our email address?
Childproofmail@gmail.com.
Childproofmail@gmail.com. I completely know that.
Yeah, totally. I believe you. And be sure to give us a follow. We are on YouTube, Childproof Podcast. We're available on all your favorite or most of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. But please follow us on YouTube.
Every time we say we're available in all of your favorite, someone's in our email box going, you're not on this one. Okay, we'll figure out how to be on that one too.
Listen, also to all of our listeners who have sent me emails about the sound stuff not being quite right, can you let me know if I fixed it? Because I don't know if I did. I tried,
it sounded
though.
fine to us before.
I tried something new.
We hear you.
Yes. And so I'm really working on it. So I really appreciate your feedback. We really care about you guys. And we love hearing from you. But you can follow me, Tori Phantom, on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all the places, and you can find
TikTok, if we still have TikTok as this episode is coming out.
We record a week ahead. So Gwenna is Pleasant Peasant Media on YouTube, and Mama Cusses and all the other places.
Yeah. Please order my book. My book is available pretty much everywhere. You can order physical books online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Really, really heavy emphasis on bookshop.org. Every purchase you make from bookshop.org helps a local independently owned bookstore and not a guy who shoots penis rockets to space. So please consider supporting bookshop.org and buy my book, A Soul's Guide to the After Death. It would mean a lot, and I think you would enjoy it. Also, leave us ratings. We need those.
Yes, we do need those. And I second, please go check out Gwenna's book. It's very good. It's very good.
And subscribe to Tori because that American History episode is dropping very soon. And remember, sometimes our kids are the assholes.
And sometimes it's us. And definitely Robert Dinwiddie. That guy.
And Jeff Bezos.